And to give the reply for the opposition, I call upon Maria.
The central question in this debate is whether or not we should give money to people on the basis that they need that money, or we should give that money to people on the basis that in the past a crime was committed against them by the state. On side proposition, they needed to prove two things. Firstly, that it was fair to introduce their proposal, and secondly, that compensation is actually effective redress for the crimes of the past. And I'm going to show you that both fall to side opposition. First of all, is this fair? We had the first contention from the proposition was that states are continuous. And they stopped right there. And we took each of their examples that they tried to use to prove this, of stakeholders in the company, of people who die, and showed you that they aren't applicable because they're all situations where there's not a situation of future liability being carried on. It's a situation where we do punish the people who are liable for that crime. And so they dropped that. We also told you often states still think they were right to introduce policies that were harmful, and they never even engaged with that. So that's two reasons why this first contention falls. So having dropped that, they moved on to try to say, well, regardless of whether the people in the state are guilty or not, we should publicly punish the people who benefit. Firstly, we negated that principle full stop, and we told you if you had no control over the crime, even if you did benefit from it, it's not fair to punish you because you didn't have the choice. And we never had any engagement on that key principle, so that still stands. But we went further and said, even if we accept the principle you should punish those who benefited, their model doesn't do that, because their model doesn't just punish those who benefit, their model punishes everyone, even those who were also directly targeted and harmed by the state. And they conceded this by saying, well, we don't get to choose what happens to our taxes. That's true, but it shows that principally their model doesn't achieve what it set out to. So that's why, on the contention of whether or not this is fair, we showed you don't punish the people who are guilty, and it is wrong to do so in this situation. So then we come to the second question. Is compensation effective redress? And the proposition told us again and again that there is a need for help, that some of these people, because of past injustices, are now poor. The first thing we said was we accepted that is true in some situations, but we said in others it isn't. In other situations, people are still very well off, regardless of what injustices were committed against them in the past. So those people are completely out of the debate in terms of them saying compensation is effective redress. But then let's look at what their model actually does to help these people and redress their crimes. Because we've contended all along, if someone is poor, give them welfare, help them get a job, do all the things the state normally does, don't make your test whether or not there was injustices against that person in the past. And what we told you was that there are some problems with compensation itself which make it ineffective. And the first thing is that compensation is a payout. They can say what they like, but as Aria said, at first they got up and said they were happy to support affirmative action. They were happy to support giving money to groups because of past injustices. They were happy to support giving land back. But we told you all the problems with that. We told you when they gave land back in Zimbabwe, the people couldn't use their aid effectively. We told you when you gave a blank cheque to Nauru for resource exploitation from Australia, they wasted the money. These are inherent problems with compensation that their model doesn't solve, and they can try and model them out of the debate, but because that's what they supported at the start, and because these are the kinds of things states employ everywhere, and because they conceded the harms of this kind of compensation, those harms still stand. Finally, they talked about deterrence, and Ari dealt with this very well when she said there's no way states are going to not do crimes against people because they're worried that some future state that has no relation to them is going to be punished for it. But furthermore, we pointed to some other very direct harms. The first was that you're going to create a political football in terms of compensation. It won't be given out fairly, it will be given out to the people with the best lobby groups, and that's harmful for justice. No engagement on that. Secondly, we told you governments will not take actual responsibility for doing things that are good for everyone, like encouraging certain languages and cultures. No response on that. And finally, we said it creates resentment between the population. They conceded it and said they don't care. We care because we want a unified society. Compensation does not create that. It is not fair. It is not effective. This is why the debate has fallen to side opposition.